The Ring of Honor Pure Title Tournament features 16 outstanding pro wrestlers, and PJ Black is one of them. Created in 2004, AJ Styles was the inaugural Pure Champion. 2 years later, it was retired, and now it has returned. And what better time? Because PJ Black's involved. Thank you, PJ. Hey, tell us about the Pure Title Tournament and your thoughts of being a part of this magnificent event.
Oh man, I was always a massive fan of the Pure Title and the rules of this competition. So being a part of it, I'm ecstatic. You know, I cannot tell you how grateful I am. I was always a massive fan. Like I said, a lot of people don't know this, but I'm actually a really good technical wrestler, or pure wrestling, if you will. So now I get to show people what I can do. So I'm really stoked for you guys to see this tournament, actually.
You bring up a good point. Why do you think that? Because I think people do know you're a technical wrestler, but do you think circumstances, you've never been given the outlet to do that on a bigger stage, and now you are?
Yes and no. You know, a lot of people just kind of, they know what I can do, and so they kind of just gravitate because of my finisher move. Perhaps they just think I'm a natural high flyer, but you know, I'm one of those guys that can do it all. When I was younger, I did enjoy that style a lot. Now I kind of mix it up between all different styles, and I think it's working for me. But which is cool because wrestling keeps evolving, and you have to keep evolving with it. And now I can show people different sides of PJ Black, which, you know, it's amazing.
When you look at some of the technical wrestlers, who do you look at and key on from the past or even today and say, yeah, that man or woman's got it?
Oh, so many English wrestlers. Rockaball, Danny, who just recently passed away, Jim Breaks from back in the day. There was a lot of technical wrestlers I grew up with watching in South Africa. Guys whose names you probably won't know, but yeah, I'm just a massive fan of that technical style, especially the old school British style. That was probably my favorite stuff to watch as a kid.
I'm a little older than you, PJ. How about Billy Robinson?
Oh yes, of course, Billy Robinson. Even guys like I just got a blank right now, but guys like Rip Rogers, who's obviously still around. He's still a fantastic mind for the business, you know.
Yeah, the ring psychology, Rip Rogers, that's right up there. I always think of Jake the Snake Roberts and then even Rip Rogers, some of the others. I mentioned Billy Robinson, PJ, because he used to, when I watched Championship Wrestling from Florida back in the day, he was a mainstay several times on that program, and it was so unique and different to see his style. It really was a very precise, different, and cool style.
Right. And I mean, doesn't Zack Sabre Jr. kind of remind you of him? I mean, he's obviously on a different scale, but like I just love that style, and I think it can make a comeback. I think there's space for all types of styles in wrestling right now. I don't think one style exists, just one style alone exists anymore. I feel like kids these days just do a hybrid of all different styles, but that's just the way wrestling has evolved, you know. Dr. Tom used to say this all the time. What's old is new, and what's new is old. So go study the old stuff, and I promise you'll get some new stuff to do that no one's ever seen before.
What are your thoughts of your first round opponent? Right? We already have that announced. I don't want to step on any toes here. Is it Tony Deppen that's your first round opponent?
That's correct, yes. The brackets have been released. I've been trying to find something of this kid online. I couldn't find much, so I'm extremely excited to see what happens in the ring. I mean, I know he's good because that's the reason he's in the tournament, but I mean, I don't know how good he is, but we're about to find out.
I was also doing the same thing you were just to prepare for the interview and noticed, at least in what I was able to find, that he does like to take risks and go the aerial style a little bit.
Yeah, and I mean, obviously I can play that game too, you know, like, so it should be fun.
And what's interesting too in the tournament, when PJ gets past the first round, it's the winner of Kenny King and Josh the Goods Woods. And Josh is a local guy, actually a South Florida guy, grew up down here and all. Have you ever competed against either one of them? Do you know much about them?
I have actually, in fact, but just tag matches, both of them. I rate Josh very high. If Josh beats me, he's my pick to win this competition, by the way. He's an extremely talented, gifted amateur wrestler, Greco-Roman, mixed martial artist. I don't know if many people know this or not. I mean, don't let that quirky, funny, goofy character fool you, man. On the mat, there's not many people who can out-wrestle him, and I'm actually excited to see what he does in tournaments like this.
Well, it's going to be just an incredible tournament. It'll be so much fun, and that's going to start airing this weekend, and it's going to run consecutive. I believe for about 8 weekends we'll have this tournament, and it's just going to be the talent list: Lethal, Castle, just Gresham, Delirious, Seidel. You can go through the whole list. Romero. There's a lot of talent in this tournament. PJ, have you ever been involved in a tournament format like this before?
Wow, I got to think hard on this one. I mean, I've been wrestling for 23 years. I'm sure I have. Nothing on this scale, I don't think. Did I ever do King of the Ring? I don't even think I did King of the Ring. Oh, actually, no. I'm very excited about this because, like I said before, I was a huge fan of this tournament when I was a youngster. So to be a part of it, I'm excited.
PJ, where do you call home these days?
I live in Los Angeles, California, in Little Tokyo, actually, which is a little area in downtown Los Angeles, which if you walk outside, you will think that you are in Tokyo, Japan.
How do you like that? And have you competed in Tokyo? Have you been a part of any Japanese wrestling?
I actually just did the New Japan Strong tapings the last couple of weeks. That's their new show on New Japan World. So that's been very exciting. That was another bucket list in wrestling for me. So I got to do that. In fact, I did the USA Cup, the New Japan USA Cup, where we filmed 3 or 4 days before the Pure tournament. So it was a very, very busy week for me. Especially, I haven't wrestled in 4 or 5 months, so I feel like I was a little bit rusty. It didn't look like this, but I know what my limits are. So very excited. I wasn't in the actual cup, the U.S. Cup for New Japan, but I was on the show, and I had a couple of singles matches and some tag matches on that show, and that's a new show that they're producing. You can watch that on Fight TV or New Japan World, actually, and pretty soon on U.S. television too.
Where you're living, and then speaking of the Japanese wrestling and all, is that just a culture you like as well?
It is. I've always loved the culture. So I moved to LA about 4 years ago. We were filming a show called Lucha Underground. I'm not familiar how many people know that show.
Oh, that was awesome. Lucha Underground was great. And that whole dynamic, and I don't mean to veer a little bit because we'll get back on track, but that whole dynamic of the aura of where it was and how it looked was really cool.
Yes, exactly. And I mean, they were flying me out here like 2-3 times a week sometimes. And I was like, yo, I actually sent my motorcycle out of the Ducati 848 at the time, which got stolen, but I sent it to LA and I left it on set. So every time we filmed, I drove around the city and I just fell in love with this place. I was like, I'm going to live here for a little while, at least until we finish Lucha Underground. But shortly thereafter, it was no more. But I just kind of got stuck here. I love the city so much.
What did you like about Lucha Underground? And then we'll go back on topic.
Everything. The roster, most of all, to me, we were like a family. Like we did everything together. We all traveled in the same bus together. We all stayed in the same hotel together. We all ate at the same restaurant at night together. And the product that we created was simply magic. I don't think that'll ever be duplicated ever again. Just everything about it. It was a different way of storytelling. It wasn't shot by a wrestling company. It was shot by a TV company. That's why the vignettes was completely different. I always tell people it was a TV show about wrestling. It's not so much a wrestling company or a wrestling show. It was very different. I loved everything about it.
Yes, it wasn't driven by the skits per se. It was actually like watching a dramatic soap opera. And then with the wrestling in it, you're right, it really was well done from a TV format as well. Well, now back on topic, what do you like about Ring of Honor?
I love Ring of Honor. I've always been a fan, obviously with a Pure title. I'm a massive fan of the Pure title tournament, as I'm sure I will repeat multiple times through this interview. But I just, like a lot of great guys come from the Ring of Honor, and I kind of did it in reverse. I feel like Ring of Honor, what they have done in the last 6 months is incredible, and that's definitely something I want to be a part of. I don't want to say too much about it. Once you guys see the product, see the show, then you'll understand what I'm saying. But, they've given me a lot of creative freedom. I get to be PJ Black. I don't have to play a character. I can be me, which, now I can get to see after 20 years, I can show people the actual side of me that I never got to do. So many different things. The travel schedule is fantastic. They actually pay me more money than WWE did, so that's a big plus too.
Hey, will we be seeing PJ Black riding that Harley to the ring?
Maybe not a Harley, but the Ducati definitely.
Yes. I was going to ask you, do you have a favorite motorcycle?
I do, a Ducati 848, and it was my dream bike ever since I was a kid. And I bought one as soon as I told myself I'll buy a house first one day. As soon as I bought a house, like the next day I bought that motorcycle. And yeah, it just recently got stolen in Los Angeles, so extremely sad about that.
Oh, man, come on. No. Oh, PJ. Well, it must be cool, too, because in L.A., their motorcycles, you see them all around. So it's really cool. Like you said, you were able to drive through LA and through all there. Is that something you like to do wherever you go? If you get a chance just to get on the motorcycle and just drive around and see the sights?
Yeah, I like to just get lost and just go. There's some amazing places here downtown, a lot of mountains too. Like LA is one of those places where you can go surf and snowboard in the same day. Mountains are so close. I love riding up the beach. PCH all the way to Santa Barbara. You drive past Malibu, and that's a beautiful, beautiful drive. And you see a lot of motorcycles there on weekends, and just so many spots to drive. Plus, you can lane split. I think this is the only state or the only city in the country where it's legal to lane split. It's extremely dangerous. I don't suggest that anyone ever do this, but if you're in a hurry, it's really fun, and it's like playing a video game.
So, PJ, you're a daredevil, and we're going to get into base in a couple of questions here. And I think it's amazing. What have you been doing? Now, you told us what you recently been doing, but prior to that, what did you do during the pandemic, and how were family and friends? Was everyone safe? Has everybody been okay?
Yeah, I'll start off with that. Friends and family are all safe. My friends and family are all back home in South Africa. They got hit a little bit harder than most people, sort of strict rules and laws and all these things. But I've been really good. I've been keeping busy. I never sit still. I'm always doing something. I started reading books, which I never used to do. I read about 10, 11 books during quarantine. I actually started writing a book myself too. But I also took up paragliding, another extreme sport. Well, people call it extreme. I don't find it extreme at all. It's more meditation for me. It's very slow and chill, but it's fun. It's definitely my most enjoyable extreme sport I do. What else? I got my sound engineer course. I did a Reiki level 1 and level 2 course. I signed up for a bunch of online courses, because it's been free during this time, and I was like, what better time to educate yourself? But yeah, it's hard for me to sit in front of the computer for most of the day, so I like to do things like that. Do a lot of hikes. Malibu has some amazing mountains where you can hike up and fly the paraglider down and land on the beach. It's amazing.
Well, then good for you, PJ, but you're making us all look bad. Hey, you mentioned books, so was there a certain book that really stood out of the books that you read?
Oh, so many. I mean, if I had to pick just one, anything by Dr. Joe Dispenza. He's an incredible person. Like, he teaches meditation and all kinds of stuff, and just his outlook of life is completely different. I mean, it's hard for me to tell you exactly. Just if anyone get their hands on a book by Dr. Joe Dispenza, any book of his, just read it. It'll change your life, I promise.
PJ, are you a yogi? Are you into yoga?
Of course, yes. I practice almost every day. I've been doing it for a while. I don't really follow the set patterns or programs, if you will. I make up a lot of my own stuff, but it really is fantastic, especially now I'm getting older, and I do want to wrestle. I want to keep this body going for as long as possible, so I think it was something that I had to do when I was younger. I refused to do it, but I wish I started it much sooner. My body would have been in a much better shape right now.
Hey, if we could always go back and say, "Oh, if I did this or did that," I mean, we could all play that game.
Right. You can play that all day, I guess.
Hey, PJ, several more questions here, and I wanted to tie into the motorcycle, the bass, and even the yoga. Did you ever think of, I don't know if you've done this, of putting something up on YouTube, or is it more personal for you? Whether it be your travels on your motorcycle, or yoga and meditation, or anything along those lines?
I actually have a YouTube channel. I haven't posted on there in a little while, but there's a bunch of my favorite base jumps, skydives, a bunch of my motorcycle stunts are on there, even a bunch of my favorite wrestling matches, indie wrestling matches are on there. I haven't been very active on there lately because I'm so busy, but I'm going to get back to that for sure because a lot of people seem to ask that.
Is it YouTube PJ Black?
Yeah, you can just type in PJ Black or Darewolf, it'll come up. I think it's youtube.com/PJ Black450, I think.
You talked about other projects. We're talking about Ring of Honor, and now I want to get to base. This is amazing. When I saw this, I was scared for you. You weren't scared, but I was scared for you. Tell us about base and these jumps and just the incredible feeling you get from it.
Yeah, so BASE is an acronym. It stands for Building, Antenna, Span, and Earth, and those are the 4 fixed objects that you can jump off with a parachute. The system is basically just a modified skydive rig with a in a skydive you have 2 parachutes. You have if the one the main malfunctions, you still have the backup, the reserve. Base jumping, you just jump with the reserve, so there's no backup. It's made to extract out of the bag really quickly, depending on the height. So you have to modify your own gear depending on the height of the object that you're jumping. There's a lot that goes into that actually, and that's one of my favorite things. It's a lot of planning. People think we're just a bunch of yahoos who chase adrenaline, and some of us do, but there's actually so much more that goes into that. And when that whole plan comes together, you plan for days, sometimes weeks or a month for one specific jump, and when you pull it off, that gratification you get along with the adrenaline is just one of the most amazing feelings in the world.
What is one of the most fun ones that you did, if you could tell us?
Oh, there's so many. I love jumping. I love jumping in Norway. That country is magical. There's so many great mountains to jump out of. The north of Italy and the Dolomites, I've done some amazing jumps and flights there. But Dubai is very dear to my heart because the prince of Dubai is actually a skydiver. So they have the best equipment, the best planes, the best pilots, the best of everything there. And it's just a really fun community. In fact, a lot of extreme athletes move to Dubai these days.
How high up?
A normal skydive is usually about 12,500 feet. I have done halo jumps from 35. I've done halo jumps from 38,000 feet. We have to jump with oxygen. I've jumped with the military guys, the Golden Knights, the Navy SEALs. I've jumped with them all, and it's hard to pick one that stood out, because they're all special in their own way. And also, people ask me do you ever get bored or you get tired of it? And the answer is no. Every jump gets better and better, and you learn something completely different on each jump.
It sounds amazing. I have to ask though, have you ever been injured?
I have. Twice I've broken both my legs. The last time they told me I would never wrestle again, probably never walk again. And, that's where my mindset completely changed. I was like, I'm not going to let a doctor tell me what I can and cannot do. And, it took about 2 years of extremely hard therapy and rehab and surgeries and all kinds of stuff to get back to normal. But now I feel like I'm in the best shape of my life. So I feel like that was a journey I had to experience to get to where I am right now.
Are you taking a break from base with the pro wrestling?
I did take a break for about a year, 2 years, but I'm slowly getting back to it now. I'm back in the sky, skydiving, flying my wingsuit, back to climbing mountains and flying my paraglider down. I just recently took up paragliding, and that's probably my favorite extreme sport right now. But everyone wants me to quit, especially my close friends and family. They're like, "You're gonna quit now," and I'm like, "No, that's not the way I live my life." If you got into a car accident, you're not gonna stop driving your car. And I realize that's not the same analogy, but that's just how I do life.
And that's a great way to live the life too, because you have to keep going on, keep moving on. That is awesome. So, I think that you are the ultimate daredevil, first of all. So, just amazing. PJ, what do you want to get out of pro wrestling right now at this point in career? Because you mentioned you've been doing it for a while.
Yeah, 23 years actually. Active wrestler for 23. I've been in it for like 25. I was refereeing matches for 2 years before I actually started doing matches. But I was born into it. My dad was a wrestler, so I've always been around it my whole life. I had a wrestling bucket list when I started wrestling, and I've checked about every single one of those boxes off. Ring of Honor, the Pure Tournament was actually one of them. I have one more thing to go. I'm not going to tell you what that is, but you'll know very soon what that is. But yeah, there's still, and now I just want to kind of give back to, there's not many people know of the scene in South Africa. I get kids from South Africa reaching out to me on social media daily, asking me how I did it, how did I start my journey, how did I get into it, all these questions. And it was extremely difficult for me because not many people knew that there was wrestling in South Africa. So my story is very, very difficult, but now I just want to make it easier for the talent that is there. So I definitely want to give back. I started a company in South Africa. I want to start a couple of wrestling schools and just, teach the kids what I've learned in my journey in professional wrestling.
Well, PJ Black has had an incredible journey thus far, and it's continuing. And we also remember him, Justin Gabriel, with Nexus and WWE. You mentioned about training. Would that be something you want to do in the States, training others, or back in South Africa, or both?
A little bit of both. I do love training. I teach a lot of seminars here in the U.S. I definitely want to set up those schools in South Africa so I can teach them what I have learned and also show them, more importantly, not only show them how the wrestling business works, but how to put yourself out there and how to get signed in other companies. Different companies look for different things, and everyone has different goals. Everyone seems to want to wrestle on TV these days, and I can teach people that because I've been there, I've done that, I know how the system works. Although it changes all the time, but I can at least point kids in the right direction. So a little bit of both, but mostly in South Africa.
You are one of a few, hope I'm correct on this, you're one of a few to make it at a very high level, being from South Africa. And if I'm correct on that, what is pro wrestling like in South Africa? Yeah,
very few. Probably the only one other than Adam Rose, but he was born in Rhodesia or Namibia. So I don't know if he counts as South African.
No, that doesn't count. No, that doesn't count. You're the only one.
No, but he's a great friend of mine. I'm really happy with the stuff that he's done. And, at least I had a friend. We've been friends since I was like 15 years old. So it was incredible to have another.
You were tag team partners, weren't you?
We were for a very long time. Named Pure Juice, actually. Yeah, many people don't know the scene back in South Africa. Right now, it's coming back up because obviously wrestling is massive worldwide. But for a few years, it did take a little dip, if you will. But yeah, it's getting back on track now. In the 80s and 90s, not many people know this, but it was a territory. It was one of the unofficial territories. In the U.S., that you had the guys move around from territory to territory, and even in Europe, and I'm not sure if in Japan it worked like that, but in South Africa, guys used to come down. Drew McDonald used to come down for like a year and stay there. Sidney Regal. I saw one of Undertaker's first matches, and I saw Andre wrestle the local South African champion when I was a kid. I saw Hogan wrestle him. So but there wasn't like any dirt sheets back then or internet, so you can't really look any of these things up.
Made it a lot more fun, I think.
Yes, I totally agree.
And we'll let you get going here, and we'll end it with the Pure Title Tournament, but I want to ask about rugby. Were you into rugby, and was that ever something that you thought, well, maybe I'll be a rugby player?
Oh, yes, funny you asked that. I started playing rugby when I was 7 years old to the age of 17. When I was 17, obviously I started wrestling, so I had a chance to go international, my first international wrestling tour, and obviously I chose that. So when I came back to wrestling, the rugby team kicked me off the team, and I thought to myself, well, this is an easy decision. This is what I'm going to do for the rest of my life. Although I already knew that I was going to be a wrestler one day, but at that time, it just made my decision much easier. I love rugby. Every single boy in South Africa plays rugby. It's one of the biggest sports there. South Africa, we're multiple-time world champions, actually. If many people don't know that, yeah, it's a massive sport down there, and one of my favorites. It's very hard to follow in the U.S., but I do like that the U.S. Sevens rugby is getting so popular right now.
Rugby is growing, and especially with ESPN, when ESPN was on board and airing rugby, really it opened up a lot more eyes to the sport, and how cool it was too.
Yes, totally. I mean, it's a very fascinating sport. I don't think it'll ever overtake the NFL in this country, but you know, and it's not even an alternative. It's a completely different sport. But yeah, a lot of athletes that have crossed over from rugby into NFL and vice versa have done really well. You know, just like in wrestling and MMA, so I definitely think that can be a feeder system for the NFL and even for wrestling. You know, there's a lot of tough rugby players that I would love to see in a wrestling ring.
I want to say, I believe maybe if I'm thinking correctly, I don't know if it was there was a Samoan war dance. I hope I say that right.
Mm-hmm.
That one of the rugby teams would do before. Was it New Zealand? I'm trying to think which one it was because I remember seeing this online, I believe. I hope I got that right. Where they would just come out and do and it was a very fierce, aggressive type of pregame ritual they did. And the other team would just stand there watching because they were waiting for the beginning of the match and all. But it's a very interesting sport itself and just what the athletes have to go through and put their bodies on the line.
Right. I mean, a lot of people think it's much harder than NFL. You know, it depends which way you look at it. I think yes and no. I think in the NFL, you know, you have helmets and shoulder pads, which you can use as weapons sometimes. So, you know, in rugby, you cannot hit a guy in the head. You have to tackle below the belt, stuff like that. So there are some rules that make it safe, but it's still a very tough sport. It's very hard to compare the two because it's completely different. But yeah, you were right. So that's New Zealand. The All Blacks, they do the haka, the little war dance. But a lot of the Polynesian teams like Fiji and Tonga, they also do those dances. Also the Usos in WWE, they used to do the war dance. It's actually very similar to the haka. And, you know, me and Dusty tried to convince them for years to actually do that on TV, and it caught on. So, you know, the fact that you know about that is amazing. So it definitely catches people's attention.
I remember seeing a documentary, and I forgot the haka. I'm so glad you said that, because I always try to do a mind memory, and I was thinking haku. That would be the way I remember it, but I didn't remember it this time for the WWE legend, haku, so I thought haka, but now I remembered that. But yeah, and then the Usos and the tie-in there, too. That's very interesting. Okay, we'll let you get going. This has been so great. PJ, you are a dual citizen, correct?
I'm not a dual citizen, but I'm a legal alien. I have a green card in the U.S. I can apply for citizenship. If I do apply, I just haven't got around to it. I might do it, I might not. It depends. Like, I'm going to see what happens in the next few years. Things seem to be very, very crazy here right now.
Well, that's true. I didn't think of that, but you're right. We'll wait a little while and see what happens and all.
Yeah.
Hey, PJ, Pure Title Tournament, Ring of Honor, it's coming up. Anything more? And we talked some about that. Anything more you'd like to say about the tournament and to the fans?
Oh no, I'm just extremely excited for the fans to see this. You know, our whole setup is completely different. Obviously, there's no fans, so we have to do an empty arena gimmick. But it really came out cool. All the matches are fantastic. I mean, the people in it, you can just look at the roster, some talented guys in that tournament, and yeah, I just cannot wait for people to actually get eyes on them.
And PJ, we'll end it too. What was it like being with Nexus? What are the positives? What was it like being with Nexus and being in WWE?
Oh, it was all positive. It was all positive for me. It depends. You know, you can take things differently and however you want it. But for me, it was amazing. I traveled the world. I wrestled in 64 different countries. You know, like wrestled in 60. I've been to over 70, but I've wrestled in 64. I never paid for a plane ticket in my life. So, I mean, that is amazing. I met some amazing friends. All my Nexus brothers are still good friends of mine. The Usos, there's so many guys that I'm still friends with in WWE that are like family to me. Remember, my family is back in Africa. So, you know, when I moved to the U.S., these people invited me to their homes for Christmas and Thanksgiving and holidays where you want to be around your family. So I will forever be grateful for that.
And PJ was on Total Divas too. I was reading that. Am I correct?
Season 1, yes.
You're a star. You're a TV star as well. There you go. And I'll wrap it up. I'm going to give you the floor to give your social media out, but I do want to ask you this. You can tell us now, were you ever secretly a Rosebud?
I was, actually, a few times. So you can. I'm pretty sure people can figure it out from there.
Bucket list. All right, PJ, tell us what your social media for fans.
Yeah, I'm very active on Instagram, PJ450. I have a little YouTube channel which I post a lot of my jumps and matches on, and some workout tips and all kinds of stuff. I just haven't been active on there for a while, but I will get back to it. My website is pjblack.com, and the links for all my social media is on there, and you can also buy some cool merch. So basically everything you want is on pjblack.com.
An all-around excellent wrestler, not just an aerial wrestler, but also a technical wrestler. Please, he's in the Ring of Honor Pure Title Tournament. This was a joy. I hope we could do it again. Thank you so much, PJ.
Yes, thank you so much. Thank you for your time, and whenever you want to do it again, let's do it. Maybe after the tournament or when the next tournament comes around, we'll have a lot to talk about then.
After the tournament, when PJ Black wins and becomes the Pure Title Champion.
Yes!
All right, thank you, PJ.
Thank you so much.